If you've scrolled through social media lately, you've likely encountered the bizarre and often hilarious videos depicting outrageous Homeowners Association disputes, many narrated by an AI voice. While these viral clips of petty tyrants measuring lawn height to the millimeter or fining residents for unapproved holiday decorations are designed for entertainment, they tap into a very real frustration felt by millions of American homeowners. The truth is, while most HOAs operate reasonably, a dysfunctional or overreaching board can make homeownership feel more like a nightmare than a dream. This guide is for anyone who has ever felt powerless against their HOA. It provides a comprehensive overview of your rights, the warning signs of a troubled association, and a strategic path to resolving conflicts, from simple disagreements to serious escalations involving harassment and abuse of power. An HOA's authority is not absolute. It operates within a strict legal hierarchy. A rule at a lower level cannot legally contradict one at a higher level. Understanding this is your first line of defense. The order of authority is federal law, state law, the HOA's declaration of covenants, conditions and restrictions, the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, and finally, the board-adopted rules and regulations. A simple board rule, for example, cannot override a right guaranteed by a federal statute. Several federal laws provide a baseline of non-negotiable rights for all homeowners. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, and national origin. This means an HOA cannot deny a reasonable accommodation such as a wheelchair ramp for a person with a disability. The Freedom to Display the American Flag Act prevents HOAs from banning the U.S. flag, though they can impose reasonable restrictions on its placement and size. The Over-the-Air Reception Devices rule protects your right to install satellite dishes and antennas, and an HOA cannot enforce rules that unreasonably increase the cost or delay installation. Other laws, like the Service Members Civil Relief Act, offer financial protections for active-duty military personnel against collection actions and foreclosure. The majority of HOA regulation happens at the state level, so your rights can vary significantly depending on where you live. In some states like Alabama, Colorado, and Texas, there is no state agency that regulates HOAs, meaning disputes are considered private civil matters. Below state law are the HOA's own governing documents, which form a binding contract you agree to when purchasing your home. To protect your rights, you must understand your HOA's core documents. These are often dense, but they contain the rules of engagement for any dispute, CC and Rs. This is the master document that runs with the land, binding all owners. It outlines the fundamental rules of the community. Key sections to review include property use restrictions, maintenance obligations for both the homeowner and the HOA, the association's power to collect assessments, and the enforcement mechanisms it can use, such as levying fines and placing liens on property. Bylaws. This is the HOA's operating manual. It details the procedural aspects of governance, such as how board members are elected and removed, meeting requirements and notice periods, and the duties of board officers. A board that violates its own procedural rules as laid out in the bylaws makes its decisions legally vulnerable. Rules and regulations. These are supplementary rules adopted by the board to clarify items in the CC and Rs, like specific pool hours. They hold the least legal weight and are unenforceable if they contradict the bylaws, CC and Rs, or any state or federal law. A dysfunctional HOA often shows warning signs long before a major crisis. Recognizing these can help you act early or avoid buying into a problematic community. Financial instability. Chronically low reserve funds are a major red flag. This indicates poor financial planning and means the board will likely have to levy large, special assessments on all homeowners when major repairs are needed. Frequent special assessments and a lack of transparency in providing financial records upon request are also clear signs of mismanagement. Poor governance. A board that avoids holding regular open meetings, communicates poorly, or actively controls elections to entrench its own power is failing in its duty to be transparent and democratic. Abusive behavior, selective enforcement, rigorously punishing one homeowner for a violation while ignoring the same violation by others is a common and illegal abuse of power. Other serious warning signs include a board that consistently disregards the advice of its professional managers or attorneys, a high rate of litigation against members, and the presence of a tyrant board member who makes unilateral decisions and stifles dissent. If you find yourself in a dispute, an emotional response is unlikely to succeed. A methodical, documented approach is the most effective path to resolution. Document and communicate formally. The foundation of any successful challenge is a meticulous paper trail. Document every interaction, take photos, and save all correspondence. Your first official step should be to send a formal professional letter to the board via certified mail. This letter should be unemotional and factual, clearly stating the issue, referencing the specific rules or laws being violated, and proposing a reasonable solution. Many states and governing documents require a formal meet and confer process before a lawsuit can be filed. This is a structured meeting between you and a board designee to resolve the issue in good faith. If an agreement is reached, it must be put in writing and signed, at which point it becomes a legally binding and enforceable contract. If internal efforts fail, the next step is a formal demand letter, typically sent by an attorney on your behalf. This letter outlines the legal basis for your complaint and signals your seriousness, often prompting a resolution without going to court. You can also file a complaint with a relevant state agency, such as a Department of Real Estate or an ombudsman's office, though their enforcement powers vary significantly by state. Consider legal action. As a last resort, you can take legal action. Many HOAs require mediation, a facilitated negotiation, or arbitration, a process akin to a private trial, first. If a lawsuit is necessary, it can be filed on grounds such as breach of fiduciary duty, breach of covenant, or negligence. For smaller monetary disputes, small claims court is often a faster and less expensive option. The ultimate check on power: recall the board. If the problem is the board itself, the most powerful tool is a recall. This is a political process that allows homeowners to remove and replace board members. It is typically initiated by circulating a petition, which in many jurisdictions requires signatures from at least 5% of the membership to force a special meeting and a recall vote. In rare cases, a dispute can escalate to harassment, threats, or criminal behavior. At this point, your personal safety is the priority, and the issue moves from a civil matter to one for law enforcement. Legal harassment is not a minor annoyance. It involves a pattern of severe conduct that serves no legitimate purpose and causes significant emotional distress. If you experience this, do not engage with the harasser. Document every incident meticulously. Send a formal cease and desist letter, preferably from an attorney, and if the behavior includes credible threats or stalking, you can petition a court for a restraining order. Responding to violence or impersonation of authority. If you are physically assaulted, your property is vandalized, or you receive a direct threat of imminent harm, call 911 immediately. This is a criminal matter, not an HOA dispute. Similarly, it is a serious crime, typically a felony, for an HOA board member or private security guard to impersonate a police officer. Private security guards do not have police powers to detain you or conduct traffic stops. If you are confronted by someone you suspect is impersonating an officer, do not submit to their authority. Calmly request their official, government-issued credentials and call 911 to report the situation and have real law enforcement respond. By understanding the legal framework, knowing your rights, and following a strategic path to resolution, you can effectively hold your HOA accountable and ensure it serves its intended purpose of protecting and enhancing your community.